Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to the World Federation of Young Theosophists Wesak celebration. And for today we have a special speaker who will be guiding us on the esoteric significance of Wesak as highlighted in the Theosophical teachings. So I am Christopher C, and I will be giving the short introduction regarding our celebration. So before we proceed, let me just give a short introduction about the regular celebration of Wesak. So let me just share my screen. So hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes, it's coming.
Yes. Okay. So Wesak is actually one of the great Eastern festivals, especially for the Buddhist tradition. Typically, it is called the Buddha's birthday, but technically, it celebrates more than that. So, in the Buddhist tradition, it is said that Wesak actually celebrates the Buddha's birthday, his enlightenment, and his death, or his passing away into paranirvana. So, all of these events happen during the full moon of May. So, for most Buddhist tradition, we celebrate Wesak during the full moon of May. But in some esoteric traditions, for example, in the Alice Bailey teachings, they follow an astrological calendar. So Wesak is always celebrated during the full moon of the when the sun is in Taurus. So, for example, in May, if the sun is in Taurus and it's the full moon, then they say that the masters follow this particular astrological calendar. But for the Buddhist tradition, we follow the regular full moon in May celebration. And generally, Buddhists celebrate this day by bringing happiness to others because, as the Buddha has mentioned, the essence of his teachings is to do good and to prevent evil. So that's what they do during the celebration or the annual celebration of his enlightenment. Typically, Buddhists would go to temples and then they would follow certain ceremonies to celebrate the enlightenment of the Buddha. Sometimes there's also activities that encourage the accumulation of merits. For example, there's life releasing. By life releasing, they would buy animals, for example, in cages or for example, those that are about to be slaughtered, they would buy them and then they would set them free. So this would generate good karma, and also because it's also kind acts, and these would celebrate the celebration of Wesak. And most of the time, most Buddhists would also celebrate Wesak by having a short meditation or contemplation about the impermanence of life. One of the key practices that I want to highlight during Wesak celebration, in most Buddhist temples, they would have Buddha bathing. So there's like a small Buddha statue, and then people would put this in a fountain and then people would wash it with water. So typically it's symbolic. So the baby Buddha represents our own innate Buddha nature, and then when we are washing it away, we're actually removing the impurities or the negativity that prevents us from shining the Buddha nature or awakening the Buddha nature within. So that's my short introduction about the Buddhist celebration of Wesak. And now let me give the floor over to our friend Catalina. She will provide us the esoteric significance of Wesak as highlighted in Theosophical teachings.
Thank you, Chris. Well, I will share the screen, and please let me know if it's coming. Let's see. Oh my God, what happened? Let's stop sharing because something happened here. The technology is not very friendly with me. Let me try again. Okay, is it coming now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so as mentioned by Chris, I'm just going to share some inputs that Ledbeater shares with us in his book, The Masters and the Path, in which he gives us like a description, very detailed description with very nice diagrams and images of what happens during the Wesak celebration from the clairvoyant point of view. What he says, he shares in detail the occult ceremony that happens in Himalayas on this essentially divine day of outpouring of blessing from the Great Brotherhood of Masters. So I think it's a nice thing that we know how it develops, because this at the moment in which, when we meditate or when we try to visualize and imagine what is happening, this helps a lot to know what is happening. So this is all this is in connection with the visit of the Buddha to the earth. We know the Wesak night is when Buddha comes, the Buddha energy comes to the earth, and it has a very, very strong esoterical significance. And an esoteric ceremony is performed on the physical plane, and the ceremony is widely known among the Buddhists of Central Asia, as Christopher just mentioned, and it is spoken of as the appearance of the shadow or reflection of the Buddha. So all members of the Great White Brotherhood, except the king himself and his 3 disciples, usually attend this ceremony. This is like the hierarchy in the image of the Great Brotherhood. And there is no reason why any of our earnest Theosophical members should not be present also in their astral body. So normally what we do is we put ourselves in meditations, or during our sleep, we visualize to be present in that moment. So we can have a little bit of this great energy of the Buddha, the presence of Buddha. So this is the valley where the Wesak festival happens, this meeting of the Great Brotherhood happens. It's a valley that is a small plateau surrounded by low hills, which lies on the northern side of the Himalayas. So I guess in the previous images, you see here, you can see the Himalayas in red color, and the valley is right there on the northern side. And it's not very far from the frontier of Nepal, and perhaps about 400 miles west of the city of Lhasa, that you can see also there in the map. This little plain is roughly oblong in shape, and it is its length is perhaps 1.5 miles and something like that. It's approximately the length of the place. And the ground slopes slightly downwards from south to north, and is mostly bare and stony, though in some places covered with coarse, wiry grass and raw, scrubby vegetation. Also, a stream, as you can see there, runs down part of the west side of the plateau and crosses it from north to west corner, and escapes about the middle of the north side to a pine-clothed ravine, eventually reaching a lake that you can see here, the down part of the screen, which is visible at a distance of some miles. So this is the geographical composition of the valley where the ceremony of Wesak takes place. Also, the surrounding country seems wild and uninhabited, and there are no buildings inside except a single ruined stupa with 2 or 3 huts beside it. And on the slope of one of the hills on the eastern sides of the plain, we can see these small hut, these 3 small huts. And about the center of the southern half of the plain lies a huge block of greenish white stone, veined with some glittering substance. And an altar-like block, perhaps 12 feet in length by 6 feet wide, and standing about 3 feet out of the ground. So this is the basic description of the place. And then the ceremony starts around half hour before the full moon time, at the signal given by the Mahachohan. And the members get together in the center to the north, in the center facing the north of the great altar, and they arrange themselves in 3 large circles. The younger members of the brotherhood will be in the outside of the circle, and the older member of the brotherhood will be in the inside. And all of them chant together chants in Pali. That is the language in which the ceremony is held. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Then, here we see this red dot. That is when Lord Maitreya, once all the members of the brotherhood are in the circles, Lord Maitreya materializes in the center, holding the rod of power. This is the rod of power. That is the representation of the power of the Logos, and that he has magnetized and that travels with him through all the rounds and chains of evolution. So he holds the rod of power and goes to the center of the circle of all the members of the Great Brotherhood. And on his materialization in the center of the circle, all the adepts and initiates bow gravely towards him. And another verse in Pali again is chanted. So after this, still intoning verses. All this time, all the members of the Great Brotherhood are singing verses in Pali. So the inner rings that we had here, the 2 inner rings, they divide themselves into 8 parts so as to form a cross within the outer circle. And the Lord Maitreya continues being in the center of the circle. But this time, this reminds us also like that description of the secret doctrine when the circle in the middle and then the cross when the manifestation begins. But at least when I was seeing the diagram, it reminded me a lot this image of the secret doctrine. Then, upon that altar, in the open space left in front of the golden bowl, the Lord Maitreya reverently lays the rod of power, while behind him, the circle changes into a rather involved curved figure. Oh no, sorry. Before that, the next movement of the Lord Maitreya, the cross becomes a triangle, and he begins to move forward so as to stand at the apex of the triangle and closer to the altar stone that we can see right here. And then, upon the altar in the open space left in front of the golden bowl, the Lord Maitreya reverently lays the rod of power on the altar, while behind him the circle changes into a rather involved curved figure, like you can see in the diagram. All these images are the images that Leadbeater puts in the book. I just reproduced them here, but all this is the representation that Leadbeater gives to the entire ceremony. And then all of them are facing the altar. In this moment of the ceremony, all the Great Brotherhood is facing the altar. And then at the next change, the curved figure becomes a reverse triangle, so that we have a representation of the well-known sign of the Theosophical Society of the 2 triangles. Oh wait, sorry, some call is coming. We have a representation of this as symbol of the Theosophical Society. And then after that, this figure in turn resolves into the 5-pointed star. The Lord Maitreya being still at the southern point near the altar stone. And the other great officials here, or the Chohans, are the 5, the Chohans are at the edges of the 5 points of the star. And the rest of the members are in the remaining parts of the stars. So this is basically all the movement that happens during the ceremony. And when the final stage is reached, then the chantings in Pali cease, And after a few moments of solemn silence, the Lord Maitreya again takes the rod of power into his hands and raises it above his head. And again, he says something in Pali that I'm not going to read the Pali version because I don't know how to read Pali, but what he says is, all is ready, master, come. So all this ceremony was like a welcome ceremony for the Buddha. And at that moment, he calls the presence of invokes the presence of the Buddha. So again, he lies down the robe. And at the exact moment of the full moon, the Lord Buddha, as you can see in this image, appears as a gigantic figure floating in the air just above the southern hills. And the members of the Brotherhood bow with joined hands, and all the multitude behind also prostrate before the Buddha, while the others sing verses which were taught by the Lord Buddha himself during his earthly life to the schoolboy Chatta, one of his disciples. So the verses, 3 verses are like this. The Lord Buddha, the sage of the Sakyas, is among mankind the best of teachers. He has done that which was to be done and has crossed to the other shore, Nirvana. He is filled with strength and energy. Him, the blessed one, I take for my guide. Then the second verse goes, the truth is non-material. It brings freedom from passion, desire, and sorrow. It is free from all stain. It is sweet, plain, and logical. This truth I take as my guide. And then finally, whatever is given to the 8 kings of the noble ones who impairs from the 4 grades, who know the truth, verily brings great reward. This brotherhood of the noble ones I take as my guide. Then people rise and stand gazing at the presence of the Lord while the brotherhood chants for the benefit of the people noble words of the Mangamala Sutra, which has been translated by a professor whose name is Professor Rice David. And okay, he has introduced certain modifications, but I am going to read it for you. This is the Mangamala Sutra. It says, when journeying for good, many devas and men have held diverse things to be blessing. Do thou them inform us, O Master, what is the greatest blessing? Not to serve the foolish, but to serve the wise. To honor those worthy of honor. This is the greatest blessing. To dwell in a pleasant land, to have done good deeds in a former birth, to have a soul filled with right desire. This is the greatest blessing. Much insight and much education, self-control and a well-trained mind, pleasant words that are well spoken. This is the greatest blessing. To support father and mother, to cherish wife and child, to follow a peaceful calling. This is the greatest blessing. To bestow alms and life righteously, to give help to one's kindred, to do this which cannot be blamed. This is the greatest blessing. To abhor and cease from sin, to abstain from strong drink, not to be weary in well-doing. This is the greatest blessing. Reverence and lowliness, contentment and gratitude, the hearing of the law at due seasons. This is the greatest blessing. To be long-suffering and meek, to associate with the tranquil, religious thought and due seasons. This is the greatest blessing. Self-restraint and purity, the knowledge of the 4 great truths, the realization of nirvana. This is the greatest blessing. Beneath the stroke of life's changes, the soul that stands unshaken, passionless, unsorrowing, secure. This is the greatest blessing. Invisible on every side, is he who acted thus. On every side he walks in safety, and this is the greatest blessing. So when this Magmagala Sutra is finished, the Lord Maitreya takes the golden bowl of water from the altar stone and holds it above his head for a few moments, while the multitude behind, who have also provided themselves with vessels filled with water, follow his example. So everyone goes with the bowls on over their heads. And he, the Lord Maitreya, replaces it on the altar stone, and another verse is chanted again. That is the invocation of the blessings. And it says, He is the Lord, the saint who is perfect in knowledge, who possesses the 8 kinds of knowledge and has accomplished the 15 holy practices, who has come the good journey which led to the Buddhahood, who knows the 3 worlds, the unrivaled, the teacher of gods and men, the blessed one, the Lord Buddha. And as this ends, a smile of ineffable love beams forth from the face of the Lord Buddha, and he raises his right hand in the attitude of benediction, like he is doing in the image, while a great shower of flowers falls among the people. And again, all the members of the Brotherhood bow again, and the crowd prostrates itself, and the figure slowly fades out of the sky, while the multitude relieves itself in shouts of joy and praise. Then the members of the Brotherhood come up to the Lord Maitreya in the order of their admission to the Brotherhood, and each sips the water in the golden bowl, and the people also sip their water, taking the remainder home in their quaint leather bottles as holy water to drive away all evil influences from their houses, or perhaps to cure sickness, etc. It's a very powerful water, very charged one. And then the vast company breaks up with mutual congratulations, and the people veer away to their far distant homes. And to the far distant homes, an ineffaceable memory of this wonderful ceremony in which they have taken part. So this is the description of what happens during the Wesak ceremony given by Leadbeater. And at that moment, everyone goes back home and the ceremony just ends. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you. Not my words, Leadbeater's words, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Catalina, for that very detailed and very enthusiastically presented description of the Wesak Festival. So as shared by Catalina, there's a lot of great spiritual activity happening during Wesak. In the secret doctrine, we are told that the Buddha is actually already, his consciousness is at par with somebody who's already on the 5th round. Whereas we, ordinary human beings, were only in the 4th round. So he's like eons ahead of us. And because of this, the Buddha is actually right now in a different planetary system so that he can continue his evolution. But once a year, as Catalina mentioned, the Buddha comes back to visit us, to watch over us, to impart his blessings on us. And he is directly received, or he is approached by the world teacher, called by the Christians as the Christ, and called by the Buddhists as the Lord Maitreya. And together with the Christ is the masters of the ageless wisdom. So he appears on the Wesak Valley. And according to Leadbeater, so that we can maximize this event, he recommends 2 things that we can do during the Wesak Festival. The first one, he says we can actually sleep during the time of the full moon, because he says that there's a possibility that we, being members of the Theosophical Society, we may be disciples. We just don't know it consciously. So there's a possibility that we are disciples. And therefore, when we sleep at the time of Wesak, our astral body may be in the Wesak Valley. We just are not consciously aware of it. And the second thing he recommends is that we meditate. So I'm gearing, well, personally, I'm gearing more towards meditation because there's a possibility that we may be disciples and we may be let in on the valley, but there's also a possibility that we're not, right? So I think we can just safely say that meditation would be the best time for this. So during meditation, we will be able to attune ourselves with what is happening on Wesak. So with that, let us spend about 10 minutes in quiet meditation. So let me just share my screen again. So for those of you who have attended our classic meditation from the Theosophical Society in the Philippines, you may be familiar with this, but I guess it's a standard classical meditation followed by many theosophical groups. So let's just pause for 10 minutes for silent meditation, relaxing our body, calming our emotions, and then being aware of our thoughts. And then let's just be aware of our breath, counting in and counting out. So I will be leading you on the preparation. And then let's spend 10 minutes just being aware of our breath. During the time that we are being aware of our breath, this slide will give us a gong sound to help us remain aware. So just in case our mind drifts away, when we hear the gong sound, we will be able to return back to our meditation on being aware of the breath. Okay, so let's begin. So let's sit up straight, feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes and just relax. I want you to be aware of your physical body. Scan your physical body from your head to your toes. Notice any areas of stress or tension. Notice also that as you become aware, these areas of stress or tension tend to naturally relax. Simply be aware. Now, gently, I want you to be aware of your emotions. Notice any emotions within your emotional body. Do not judge or label these emotions. Simply be aware. Notice that as you become aware, these emotions tend to naturally settle down. Simply be aware. Now, gently, I want you to be aware of your thoughts. Notice the thoughts that are coming in and out of your mind. Again, do not judge or label these thoughts. Simply be aware. Notice that as you become aware, these thoughts tend to naturally settle down. Simply be aware. Now, slowly, I want you to be aware of that space within your consciousness that is beyond thoughts and beyond your emotions. Now, gently, let us slowly become aware of our breathing. As we inhale, mentally say 1, and as we exhale, mentally say 2. Let us follow this slow meditation for about 10 minutes. I will now play the sound of the gong to remind you, just in case that we forget our meditation, our focus of our meditation. Now, slowly, let us once again be aware of that space of consciousness that is beyond our thoughts and our emotions. Let us strive to maintain an awareness of our own higher nature as we return to our normal consciousness and as we do our daily activities. Slowly, let us once again be aware of our thoughts, letting the light of our consciousness illumine our thoughts. Slowly, let us once again be aware of our emotions, letting the love of our soul, letting the love of our soul fill our emotional bodies. Now, let us once again be aware of our physical body, letting the energies of the spiritual will revitalize and re-energize our physical body. Now, slowly, let us be aware of the sounds all around us, of the weight of our body against the chair, and slowly open our eyes. Hello, everyone. Let me just end the